Congressman Burgess, my name is Amber Briggle. I live in Denton, and this is my very first town hall, so thank you for having us this evening. I'm not here to talk about healthcare or Russia. I'm going to switch it up a little bit. I'm here to talk about equality. So just last night, the Trevor Project, which is a suicide prevention hotline geared specifically towards LGBTQ youth, released this really disturbing study. And in it, they found that there's some really compelling, definitive evidence that shows that the anti-transgender rhetoric that we're hearing in Texas has increased these calls, especially from transgender youth in Texas, to a suicide hotline. And in the days after Donald Trump said that there would be a military ban on transgender service people, there was a nationwide uptick in these calls. So our words have power. And there's a lot of transgender youth today who aren't feeling that they are welcome in this country, and they're feeling under attack and feeling vulnerable. Our country has a complicated history, I think, when it comes to equality, right? So we've had slavery, we had to fight for the women's right to vote, we had to fight to integrate our schools. But throughout time, our country has realized that when we are on the wrong side of history, we try to right our wrongs, right? And whether that's through a legislative act like the Civil Rights Act of 1964, or a ruling from the Supreme Court like Brown versus Board of Education, we try to right the wrongs. Though marriage equality is legal in this country, a same-sex couple could go get married on the weekend and come back from their honeymoon the following week to find out that they've lost their housing because they're gay, and they've been fired from their job because they're gay. So though marriage equality is legal, there still are not federal protections in place to prevent discrimination against LGBTQ Americans. So my hope for you, because I do understand that through the Human Rights Campaign has given you a rating of 0, to show that you have not, in your history as our congressperson, stood on the right side of history and fighting for the rights of LGBTQ Americans. So my hope for you is that, like our country, you may discover that you stood on the wrong side of history and still have time to leave a positive legacy. So my question for you is based on...
Hope springs eternal, right?
Exactly.
There you go.
That's why I'm here having this conversation with you. So my question for you is, based on the data, the definitive data that the Trevor Project has released last night, based on the fact that our history as a country shows that we want to do the right thing, my question for you is, what have you learned during your time as a congressperson in Washington about the challenges that your LGBTQ constituents have faced? And what will you do, like specifically, to stand on the right side of history and make sure that the Constitution protects them just as equally as it protects you or me?
So I think the two issues on transgenders in our schools, which of course...
Pardon me, it's transgender people and not transgender.
People.
Yes.
In our schools.
Yeah.
Which is, of course, the source of some debate down in Austin right now, and in the military, which was the source of some debate on the floor of the House. I do wonder why, for President Obama, who said this was an important issue for him, why he waited until his last 5 months in office to make those determinations. These were things that were within his power to do in his first years in office. He had a 60-vote majority in the Senate. House Republicans, Senate Republicans were unable to stop any of those activities.
Answer the question.
We know what Obama did. What will you do?
I don't disagree that the commander-in-chief, whether it be Barack Obama or Donald Trump, has the ability to make that determination for the United States military. It is a readiness issue, after all, that the commander-in-chief is required to make. I did disagree with the decision that President Obama made. I don't disagree with the decision President Trump has made, but it is appropriately in the hands of the generals, and they are going to make the readiness determination and deliver that information to the president, who in turn will share that with us.
So thank you for sharing your reflections. What specifically will you do, however, because the Constitution guarantees equality for all. There's nothing different about transgender people or gay people that should determine that we can make it legal then to discriminate against them. So what will you do?
What do you mean other discrimination? Are you talking about service in the military?
I'm talking about...
Not everybody gets to serve in the military.
I understand.
There are some
what I'm talking about
conditions.
is that there are no federal protections for people based on their sexual orientation or their gender identity. So as I said, though marriage equality is legal, a same-sex couple can get married and in so doing out themselves, then their landlord has evicted them from their apartment and they've lost their job. So, and that's perfectly legal in this country. My question for you is, what will you do as my congressperson to ensure that the rights of all LGBTQ Americans are protected? Not just the heterosexual cisgender Americans, but all Americans deserve equal protection. So what will you do? I don't care what Obama's done. I don't care what Donald Trump is doing. I'm here asking you, what will you do to protect Americans? Right, so everyone, but that's the thing. Everyone is following the law. And right now, there's no law. So would you, but there is no law to protect them. There are no laws to protect someone from being fired from their job or kicked out of their home based on sexual orientation or gender identity. Would you be in support of something like the Equality Act that would guarantee federal protections?
It's come up in the past, and I have not been supportive, and you know that.
That's too bad.
Yes.
Thank you.